Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of most ages. Nah, just kidding. Welcome back to the PowerStroke Jude YouTube channel. I'm PowerStroke Jude. Hope all my dudes are having a great day. This is going to be the first video in a series that I'm going to do with guys that own tool franchises. Let me introduce my buddy, my pal. You guys have seen him. He hosts the best tool haul, I guess that's what you call them, tool haul video on the internet. You know, tools in the hall. He doesn't need any more introduction. Let me bring him in.
How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Lindsay? How are you?
Good. I hope I'm worthy of your intro. That was a very complimentary. Thank you.
Oh man, that's great, dude. You absolutely have the best tool haul on the internet, and the reason why, and I think we talked about it, or I sure sent it to you in an email, is you're either stocking your truck with something that a tech bought because you have to restock your truck, so it's showing that that's something that's being bought right now, or you're ordering, it's an order, something that a tech wanted. You know, so people watch your videos and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was out," you know, and I didn't even know that was available, or they made that tool. People were buying stuff, and I think that it was a great idea to do a series like that, Tools in the Hall. I love that series, and I really like the After Dark ones. Those are cool.
Yeah, I think I have an advantage because being a retailer, I buy lots of tools all the time, and I've seen lots of other people's tool hauls. It's stuff that they bought for their own use,
right?
And I have an advantage there where I got a lot more volume than the average Joe buying tools. And to your point, I can show you what people are actually using and buying and what they like. I'm reordering stuff that I know is popular, and I can tell you why because I get that feedback from customers on a regular basis.
And what's great is if you bring something else, like just say you order a set of chisels, all right, and weeks later you're ordering a different brand consistently, you could even say, well, you know what, that set that I bought wasn't to my standards. Customer gave me some feedback on it, so this one might be $10 more, but it's going to last them, 10 years longer, or stuff. You've got great intel on to what tools are the good ones to buy, and especially since you have such a large variety of tools that you can buy from.
And you can't be afraid to do that, because a lot of guys, I think, put too much of their own ego on the line. I don't care what I sell as long as my customers like it and I get good feedback. So I am not beholden to a particular brand. I don't care about the particular configuration or makeup of a tool. As long as it's what customers want and get use out of, I'm all for it. So if I get feedback that something isn't up to standard, fine, we'll get rid of it and get something else. So I have a lot of access to different brands too, which makes it way easier as an independent tool guy as opposed to the franchise guys, because they don't have the choices I have.
Gotcha. That's true. That's very, very true, because I mean, franchise guys are pretty much set on what they can buy. I mean, I think they might have a supplemental catalog or something like that, but I mean, then it's not the same though, because they don't even usually push that supplemental catalog. They just want to sell, Snap-on, Mac, Cornwell.
When I started out in the industry, I was a Mac dealer for the first couple of years, and they introduced us to the supplemental catalog, but they said don't sell out of it. Basically, it's there in a pinch if we need it, but they didn't want to encourage us to sell out of it. And I'm looking through this catalog going, yeah, but here's so many other things. This increases the breadth of what we can offer. Why wouldn't we? And then as I learned more about it and being a franchisee, it was way more expensive for me to do that, going through their established channels. So doing it the way I'm doing it now, I get the advantage of having access to all those brands plus a lower cost than what you'd find on the franchise trucks.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So how long have you been selling tools?
Yeah. Let's see. I started in 2016. Yeah, May of 2016 is when I first started. So this is my 9th year.
Oh, well, you've been doing it for a while. And you kind of went into it a little bit right now, I guess, because of the variety of tools that you're able to sell and the better service you're able to give your customers. But is that kind of why you switched from Mac or from one of the
That's one of the biggest reasons. Some of the other compelling reasons was were that they're very restrictive in how they want you to do business, because you're bound to a territory and you can't sell to anyone outside of that territory. You can't sell stuff online. They want you to sell on the truck to your established route customers. And you can't grow the business that way because you only have a finite number of people you can possibly sell to. So seeing the same people week after week, every week is fine. But at some point, you're going to hit market saturation with some of the stuff that you're selling. And then you're going to see your sales kind of plateau off. So you can't grow the business at all. And it's that way by their design. And I didn't like having those restrictions in particular. So I decided going independent's going to be the best way for me based on how I want to do business. And it gives me a chance to tap a lot of other markets. I can get relationships with other suppliers, and I can get access to tools and equipment that the franchise companies don't have. So I can forge these new ways of doing business that the other guys can't do.
Okay. And I know one of the things that you mentioned, as a Macker, they don't let you sell online, but as an independent dealer, you do some online sales, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I sell mainly my industrial disposable gloves online. I sell soap that I make myself on my web store. And I was also able to launch an Amazon store and sell on Facebook Marketplace. So there's a lot of different ways you can make that work for you if you're inclined to sell online. And I'm able to do that whichever way I want, and no one tells me I can't. So it's compelling for me, because to me, you can run the business the way a business should be run instead of working with all those restrictions.
Oh, that's cool, though. I mean, I can see why you would mean that way as well. If you keep seeing me looking down, it's because that's where I got my I'm not a Barbara Walters. I don't have a teleprompter in front of me. All right, now here's another thing. We were just talking about online. You were saying the stuff that you sell online. Tell me about online tool companies. Do they affect your business? Like Capri, OEM tools, stuff like that.
There's certainly everyone's taking a slice out of the pie in the tool industry. There's no doubt that other retailers are going to own some market segment, but the advantage that any of us have, no matter what way we're choosing to sell tools, is we're going to find a target market, and those are the folks who are going to buy from us. There's guys that will only buy in a tool truck that won't buy online. There's guys that'll buy online and won't go into a brick and mortar store. There's guys that only like to go into brick and mortar stores and won't buy online. So, and there's some overlap there, obviously, but by and large, we've found our market segments. And while I do have customers that buy a number of different ways, there are guys that say, hey, look what I got on Amazon, or I went to Home Depot and I bought this. I don't know that it really affects business that much, because there's so much business to be had. Everyone can seem to carve out their little niche for themselves and do pretty well.
I agree, because, in the last 20 years, 25 years ago, when I started ranching, she's been longer than that. Yeah, probably about 25 years. But since that day and to this day, I hear the same thing. Oh, the tow truck industry is going to die. There's no way. There's no. And I hear that consistently. Yep. Yet yep. I see these tool truck dudes that are just, they're killing it. And it's part of it's because of the service they provide. And I know that we've talked about that in the past, but I don't know why people continue to always think, oh, the tool truck industry, that's a dying industry. There's just no way. What's your take on that?
I understand that point of view. And I certainly know that any option somebody has is going to make an impact on a tool truck. But I'll give you a very recent example. Last week, I was talking to a manager at Capital Metro, who's my largest site. They run the transit bus and train authority for the city of Austin. And he approached me and he said that they're looking to put together some programs where they're going to have some new guys come in. He said, we want to offer them, while they're in the program, tool bundles, including tool storage. He said, what do you have? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I said, gearwrench has 5 options, all ranging in size and scope, depending on what you want. And he said, can they put together a proposal for me? I said, sure. So I just spent, the better part of a day putting everything together for him. I sent it off. And that was a chance to show my value, because I said to him, just so you know, I said, my pricing is going to be higher than, say, Grainger or Home Depot, whoever else sells this stuff. And he says, I don't mind. He says, first of all, this is a government-funded organization. They've got the money. He said, second of all, he says, he and I have known each other for years. He said, but I know you, and I know you're going to be the guy who stands behind everything that we buy. I said, that's true. And that's valuable to him, valuable enough that he's willing to spend a significantly greater amount to buy through a small time one guy operation like myself than go to a large big box store or a company like Grainger and buy from them, simply because he wants the service component to be there that he will not get with other retailers.
Yeah, I get that. That's very important, because I'm not going to say I don't ever buy from a brick and mortar or even online, but I know my service is in my dealers. That's where I get my best service, and that's predominantly where I buy most of my tools. Like I said, I'm not going to say I'd never go to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a real big Amazon guy. I've got a couple things here and there. I mean, like I have Prime, but I the last couple of days were Prime Day, and I never even went to go see what they were selling. It didn't dawn on me to look, because when I need a tool, I wait for Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when I tell the guys what I need.
Yeah.
But that's cool. You were just talking the packages he was looking for. What was his channel? What kind of packages was that guy looking for? Was he looking for tool storage? Because I know
he wants to offer to guys who went to this program a whole starter set of tools. That includes a box and or a cart and an entire array of hand tools of varying descriptions. So all the chrome stuff, your sockets, ratchets, wrenches, all the basic screwdrivers, pliers, things like that. And there's different offerings, although all that come bundled by gearwrench based on how many tools you want. They have the smallest set, I think, is a 641 piece set, all the way up to like a 1268 piece set. And it's up to him to choose. So I basically broke it all down. I made a whole PDF document with the contents of every set and what it looks like and what the highlights are. So he can sit there and pick and choose, and he can say, yeah, well, we've got X amount of money in the budget, so we'll buy these sets here and we'll go with that. So it's a really good opportunity for me to start building the business and doing a little bit more business, and working with a program that someone else is starting, where I'm going to be the guy for that program, not just for the company, but also for the technicians who come in the door, and they'll associate me with that. And there's some automatic business there.
That's something that I went down a rabbit hole a couple of weeks ago, because I was scrolling through YouTube, and all of a sudden I saw these gearwrench toolboxes, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I watched like a 40-minute video, and then when you watch something that long and you go to the back page, it takes you back and it gives you something similar to watch, because it's like, oh, maybe he wants to see that. And I watched like 3 or 4 videos on gearwrench storage. Their boxes they're gorgeous boxes. They've got all these foam tools and foam. And I think a while back we had mentioned that a couple of the wrench sets or something like that came in foam, but I didn't know that they had complete storage units, filled with tools like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's the sets that I spec'd out for this guy, and they're called the Mega Mod mechanics tool sets. And all the tools come in foam trays, and they all come with some kind of storage for either a cart or a box, or the larger ones come with both. And
yeah, I saw that they have the.
Yeah, it's a turnkey solution if you've never turned a wrench before. And yeah, they're expensive, but if the individual technician was going to buy those, it'll be a sizable chunk for someone to bite off. But if it's being funded by a grant from the government, it's a way easier program to get into.
I'm 25 years in, and everything you guys have in those sets, I pretty much probably have. But
yeah,
one way to look at that, there's sometimes I've heard the saying, you tell a new kid that comes in, he's a loop tech or he's an apprentice or something like that, dude, don't go buy a $3,000 or $6,000 box, or
Right.
double big head. Don't do that. It's not time. It's not the time to do it. But just say he's got a small, a Harbor Freight cart, and he's got a few tools in it, but the dude's obviously got that gene in him where wrenching is just in his blood, and you can tell he's good at it. Well, then maybe that's getting at that point, a year and a half in. Well, check it out. You can spend $6,000. You get a box, you get a bunch of tools, and you're set. That might be a way to look at it.
Yes, and even if you're an intermediate level guy, some of these sets will be great because you never have everything, and even if you want duplicates of something, it's still a good investment. That and the fact that you get some upgraded storage than the cart of the smaller box you might be working out of today. And as you look at how the sets break down, like in the smaller setups, there's only chrome tools, and then they introduce some impact stuff later on, and they introduce some more larger variety of 6 and 12 point sockets, for example, and they just keep building on it, and then they'll introduce roller seats come in one, and then you get a work table in another, and then some lighting comes in some of these other bundles. So there's always ways to grow them. And then if you wanted to grow them out with specialty tools after that, at least you have a really good base setup that you can work out of.
Man, gearwrench should team up with like Lyle, and then they'd be set. They'd have all the specialty stuff. They'd have that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
that would be really cool. Let me get back to my teleprompter real quick. No, on these. Now, going back to online tool companies, is there any particular brand that you see more of in shops when you're talking to guys? I mean, whether it be Capri or Tecton or something like that?
Snap-on is always a popular brand, and you're always going to see a healthy percentage of people's tools Snap-on brand. But it's not like people are so brand loyal like they were, say, 20 or 30, 40 years ago. Back in the day, you found it much more common for people to be loyal to one brand because they had a good rep that never went away, and he was always there to help them. And yes, it cost more money, but the tools were excellent quality. Now, quality standards have changed where sometimes some companies like Craftsman, for example, who used to be outstanding quality, no longer outstanding quality. They use I can't say today because they've kind of revamped the whole lineup since they were bought by Stanley. But there was a very dark period in the Craftsman world when they were outsourcing everything to China and they're using inferior quality alloys. And this one, Sears still owned them. So there were some real horrible times to be buying Craftsman tools. I think that's changing for the better, but these things fluctuated where all of a sudden the quality wasn't what it was. So people started looking around to see where's a better deal. But now it's such a highly competitive industry. There's so many brands. It's difficult to last for any amount of time selling to the professional market if you have substandard tools. So you'll find that most of the brands, like you mentioned, a bunch from Lyle, Vim, Gearwrench, OTC, Mayhew, all these guys are high quality brands, and they can't afford to let their quality slip. Not only are they competing with these other big names like Snap-on and Mako, but they also manufacture some products for those brands like Snap-on and Mako. So if they let their quality slip, that's the Snap-on name on the line, and Snap-on's not going to let that happen, certainly. So the landscape has changed to the point where the brand itself is no longer as important as the quality of the tool. And the quality of the tool, while it is important, it's also important to be buying from the person that you like to buy from, someone who's going to stand behind what they're selling, because it doesn't do you any good to buy a great quality tool, spend 3 times as much, have it break, and have no one there to service it for you.
Yeah, I understand that completely, because if they do start slipping in quality, then they're not, that's not going to be the brand that people go to anymore.
Right.
What tool brand name has been a game changer for you? Something that like all of a sudden you can't keep on the truck. It just, I mean, it's like, whoa, this is freaking awesome. I got to order more of this, and it just keeps going and going. I've got one guess for sure, and maybe two, that I know I've purchased a lot since they've come out, or maybe not come out, but since they've probably been around. It's just that all of a sudden in the last 2 years, it's like, wow, I can't believe, how much I've bought from these companies.
Milwaukee has changed my personal game in this industry because they are such a huge player in the cordless tool industry, and they have only grown their product offering. They're offering a lot of different lighting products and a lot of different hand tools now. But when they came out with their cordless tool line and decided to make inroads to the automotive and diesel sectors, they took the industry by storm. And it did not take very long for people to start switching over to Milwaukee, primarily because they can buy Milwaukee anywhere. You don't have to buy it on a truck, but you can. And if you choose to buy it, say at Home Depot, you're going to save yourself some money over the tool truck price. But their warranties are so good and their warranty process is so easy. They're very easy to gravitate toward that. So I've seen people change over all the time. And you wind up taking a lot of trade-ins on old Matco and Snap-on cordless tools because they don't have the longevity that the newer Milwaukee ones do. So people are getting rid of their old, bringing in the new, buying into a new battery platform. And so far, Milwaukee has treated everyone pretty well. There's been a couple of hiccups along the road. I know a couple of years ago, we were all having conversations about the new half-inch impact that Milwaukee came out with, which was breaking, but Milwaukee owned up to it. They corrected it right away, and that problem's long in the rear view. And a couple of other things that maybe don't meet the same pro standard like their personal lighting line, which I'm not a huge fan of, but their hand tools are great, and I love their M12 and M18 cordless tool lineup. So they've been the game changer for me because once I started selling Milwaukee, I had a Snap-on guy working in my area who I was buddies with, and Matco at the time did not sell Milwaukee, and they both told me that they saw their cordless tool sales plummet as soon as I could offer up Milwaukee on the truck.
Well, I mean, Milwaukee is by far the, when it comes to cordless power tools, I think I see more of them in the industry than anything else. I mean, I'm not at every shop, but the shops that I've been at, I mean, everybody's got something Milwaukee.
Yes, it's weird if there's not something from Milwaukee in every toolbox.
Yeah. The guess that I kind of had was, I know as of late, at least like the last year and a half, Vim Tools seems to be coming out with something new, every month, and they're like, oh, I got to get that. And same thing with this company. I think just recently a patent was ended or something like that, where they could start selling to other companies. But when Grip Edge came out, which was, I believe, the old RBRT from Mac, I'm sure that Mac sales plummeted because Grip Edge came out and Grip Edge was green.
It always helps.
But those were the two companies that I thought for sure be hard to keep on the truck. Besides, I knew Milwaukee. I knew that was for sure, but I was thinking of more like recent stuff. But have they been good sellers?
Yes, Vim has the great approach that they're only going to focus on specialty tools, and they recognize where they see a deficiency in the market, and they make a tool to fill that. And their quality is so good and their pricing so good, people jump all over it. It's not difficult at all to sell, say, their 15-inch wrench extenders. Everybody buys those wrench extenders. Their only competition, I think, is Mueller in that regard. And if you ask me, I think Vim has a nicer quality, nicer fit and finish to their wrench extender. So I used to put both on the truck, but everyone would prefer the Vim one. So I just moved to Vim exclusively for those things. They have great half cut or stubby bit sockets. They have awesome auto adjusting pliers and filter wrenches, and they always have something unique. Their biggest seller right now on my truck is this 1/4 inch drive socket set. Well, it's not a set. It's just a ratchet, where it's just a ratchet with an extension handle and a little magnetic bit holder in the ratchet. People love that thing, and it's cheap. So they're jumping all over that stuff. And if they don't know the name Vim, and I give them a little spiel on it, it's easy to win them over. I tell them what I know about the company, how long they've been around. They've been around a long time. Their stuff is high quality, and they stand behind all the hardline tools with lifetime warranties. So what's not to like about it? And you're not spending an arm and a leg on their stuff.
No, everything I have from Vim, I'm happy with. I mean, none of it's ever failed yet. I mean,
no,
I've got before they even switched their, I guess their marketing approach. I've got some old school nut driver. They're not nut drivers with the handle, but they're with the hex driven. So you put into like a screwdriver or a corded screwdriver or like a impact driver.
Yeah.
And those things are, but I love those things, man. I've had them for a long time. They're really good sets. I like them a lot. And then the grip edge stuff, I've got a couple of things from them, and I've been happy with their stuff as well. I had one set of RBRTs. I know I do still, but I don't really. I know it's supposed to be your everyday go-to. Like, oh, it's not for extractions. It's just should be your first pick. But for some reason, I just consider it like an extraction. So maybe I'm wrong about that. And on those wrench extenders, I don't have the Vim one. I got an old somewhere in one of my toolboxes. I got a bunch of toolboxes, but I've got one that I got maybe 5-6 years ago. It was before I think Vim came out with theirs, or maybe Mueller Cups didn't have it either, but a Monster Mobile one. You remember them?
Yes, that's right. They had a very nice one. I don't know whoever made it for them, but it looked very similar to the Vim one. The difference there is that the Monster one had a full polish handle on it, which was very nice, and the Vim one has a rubber handle. Both are, I think, equally good quality, but Vim remains, and Monster unfortunately went away. So I've gone to only carrying the Vim one.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
I get that a lot. I wanted to talk about. I'm going to kind of read this. I sent you I think you read this as well, but I'm going to talk about tool companies now, and it says in years past, the consensus has been that the hierarchy of tool companies order is like Snap-on, Matco, Mac, Cornwall Independent, brick and mortar, and online. All right, now what I think the hierarchy now is Snap-on, Independent, Cornwall, and Matco kind of together. Then probably online, then Mac, then brick and mortar. Now, do you agree with what I said? That's how it was in the past and how it is now, or I mean, do you have your own order that you think you would put them in?
Snap-on is still number one in the industry, and as far as independent guys like myself go, unfortunately, we're kind of farther down that ladder when it comes to mobile tool companies, because we're not a single company, we're all independent, but independent dealers outsell Cornwall every year. So Matco's still a big player. They're number 2 to Snap-on. Mac really gave up a lot of their market share years ago to Matco and never got it back. And Cornwall's always been kind of just roaming around on the bottom of that totem pole. And as far as online and brick and mortar, online certainly is popular. And I think we'll get into this in a few more questions when we talk about online tool companies, because there's a lot to be said about online shopping, good and bad. So while they move a lot of products, it's not necessarily the preferred way for a professional to go about buying their tools. And we'll get into that a little bit later. And then brick and mortar still certainly has their place. And my experience has been, whenever I've gone into a store, if the person or people who work there aren't helpful to me, then I'm on my own and I kind of have to make my own decisions. Where a brick and mortar store would be really useful is if you could take the knowledge and experience and helpfulness of, say, a really good tool truck operator, put them in a brick and mortar store. Now you kind of have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that makes sense. The reason I put, well, like I said, I still think Snap-on is like a big player. The reason I think that uh, independent Cornwall and Matco are basically together now is because Matco, everything on their truck is on your truck. It's just that it says Matco on it.
That's true.
You know, it's not that you guys sell the exact same tools. It's just that they're having it branded Matco. And Cornwell, and I see more Vim tools. I've seen Capri tools. I see Lyle tools. I mean, they're basically in it carrying the same tools as you as well. They still have their Ohio stuff, but they don't even in their tool flyers. I don't think I've seen the Ohio, because it used to be, you know, everything in the front of the Cornwall flyers was their Ohio stuff. You know, then they'd have their whatever stuff that they were having branded, and then in the back they'd have like their Blue Power. Now it's starting to switch for the front. When you're looking through a Cornwall flyer, you're seeing the Blue Power stuff and like the Taiwan stuff. Then you're seeing the stuff that they're having branded, whether it be by OTC or you know, Lyle or whatever, that just has Cornwall name on it. And at the very back, you would see, you know, made in Ohio. Like it was like the last 2 pages of their flyer. Yeah. I don't think I've seen that made in Ohio page in like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't even think they put that page in their flyers anymore. And I can see why, because they're made in. I have a Cornwell 3/8 inch. It's a 3/8 inch impact set that I bought in 2003 or something like that. And I remember when I paid like $400 for it, I was thinking, man, that's crazy. I can't believe I just paid $400 for that. The last time I looked it up, like online or whatever, their set, it's the exact same. The way it comes, they sell it in half of what looks like half of a blow molded case. Like if the top half isn't there, where the air ratchet goes, it's just an empty space. And that's how I got mine. It's not included with the air ratchet. And it's got the same sockets. It's the exact same set. That set that I paid, you know, $400 for is now almost $1,100 or something like that. And wow. That's their USA stuff. What Gabe, well, maybe it's been a while. He's been in youth over a year now. So a while back when I talked to him, he had some stuff on his truck, and it was he called me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be at your shop tomorrow. I have some stuff you might want to see." I'm like, "All right, cool." But when he got there, it was gone, because there was like a USA socket set. It was a swivel set. If you bought the metrics, you got the impacts. I mean, you got it was impact rated, but if you got the metrics, you got the SAE free, or SAE, you get the metric free, something like that. And it was like $500, which was a killer deal, being that it was the USA stuff. But he said, "Oh, sorry, dude, that thing didn't last. I called you, and somebody had it in his head. Hey, what was? I want this." Man. Yeah. But so Cornwell's basically selling the exact same tools as you as well.
They are.
Cornwell and Mac are just a lot more expensive than you.
Correct. There's a lot of similarity in that regard. When you look at,
they both sell the one.
Right. Yes, they do. So that even dilutes the playing field even more. And when you look at how the tool industry is constructed, there's a handful of manufacturers, and those manufacturers make stuff called third-party branding for these other companies. Now, Snap-on has a distinct advantage in that they enjoy being a large manufacturer themselves. They actually do make a lot of the hardline tools that they brand themselves and sell themselves. But they also manufacture for other companies. And if you ever pick up a tool and you say, "This looks a lot like a Snap-on one," it might very well be that Snap-on made it for that other brand. And the other tool companies, Matco and Mac, don't manufacture anything themselves anymore. Matco manufactures toolboxes and carts only. They don't manufacture any tools. And Mac doesn't have a manufacturing arm, because everything gets manufactured for them by either a Stanley Black & Decker company, or they've outsourced it to somebody else entirely. And that's very common, not just in the tool industry, but in every industry. But what it means is that you see a lot of similarities between tool vendors, and specifically tool trucks in this regard. when you go on my truck or Cornwell or Mac or even some Mac trucks, you will see the same exact products and the same packaging. Snap-on not nearly as much, but you will still see some guys that kind of go out of band and decide, I'm going to buy this gear wrench stuff or this Milwaukee stuff, because it's very difficult for them to compete unless they do that, because the prices are high for Snap-on and Maco's branded stuff, and people can choose to spend less money and still buy a quality product. Why won't they do that? So they do. And Snap-on knows that they have to compete better like that, and so does Maco. At least the dealers do. So they'll do what they have to do to get the business. But when it comes down to comparing tools quality-wise for any of the premium brands, you're not going to see a whole lot of performance difference. You will see preferential differences. Maybe you like the feel of one company's wrenches over another company's wrenches, or their ratchets just feel better in your hand or something like that. That's all fair. And you have to ultimately buy and use what you're comfortable and enjoy using. And it may very well be that you have a brand which might have some better quality offerings, but for the price difference, it may very well be worth it for somebody to spend less and get a tool that still works just as well for them. And that's where a lot of the comparison shopping comes in. It's not easy to do, because it's not like you're going to go on a Snap-on truck, for example, and buy their half-inch impact kit and then go buy a Milwaukee one and compare the two. It's a comparison that comes with time. Maybe you have an opportunity to use somebody else's in the shop that they already own, and you can make that side by side yourself, while you're looking to see what to buy, and that will inform your decision. But you see so many similarities now. You really have to look at price and the person that you're buying from. Are they the ones that are going to stand behind it? Are they giving you a fair deal? Are they going to be around a long time? No one ever knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But some of these guys come and go pretty quick, and other guys stick around. And you want to buy from the guy who's going to stick around, because he's going to provide your service for you.
Yeah, that is horrible, man. I've been fortunate. I've got all the trucks, come to my shops that the last two shops that I've been at. Almost fortunate. I don't have an independent dealer, but I've had the closest one I think is it's about an hour drive from me that I know of. I had an independent dealer, but he wasn't. His truck was wrapped SK, if you can believe it or not.
Yeah.
And he was a real cool guy, but he was. He's probably retired by now. I think his son-in-law took over his business, but I just haven't seen him lately. But I know so many shops will say, like Cass, he's a friend of ours. I think he's saying that he hasn't seen a Cornwall dealer like in 20 years. Other guys say, man, there's a channel called Online Mechanic Tips, and I was watching his video the other day. He was at Harbor Freight trying to replace a 16 swivel impact socket, and it was a Mac that broke, and I guess working on Chrysler's, he needs that to remove transmissions. And he's like, man, I can't. Mac tools, so they're not even in business anymore. And he did a follow-up video where he was saying, oh, my bad, man. I guess I just don't see him. He's like, I haven't seen one in 20 years, but I guess they are still in business. He's like, I got a bunch of comments telling me I was stupid, but that was pretty funny, because he was like, I really thought that they were just gone. And it's, I would say Matco and probably Snap-on are probably the two trucks you generally see the most.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a good point, man. You want to get with the guy that is going to be there, that is going to help you, that is going to provide good service. That's got to be the way to go.
And it's not easy to know who that is. Around my area, I kind of feel like the last tool guy standing right now, where we've had 2 or 3 Snap-on guys go under. Matco's gone under. There's one Cornwall guy floating around. The Mac guy floating around kind of part-times it. And right now there's one Snap-on guy left. And that's about it. I mean, right now in my area, there's very few tool trucks, whereas just a few years ago, every franchise had a presence and me. I mean, there were some shops who were getting 5 tool trucks a week coming in because we all grabbed a share of that. But that's changed now, and a lot of the other tool guys haven't made it for lots of reasons. But I think one of those reasons is because they don't get to call their own shots. If you're not an independently owned and operated company, you're doing somebody else's business by their rules. And it's very frustrating. The conversations I get into with these franchise guys are the same frustrations I felt when I was in it. So we all know what it feels like. None of us really like the rules. Some guys are able to make it work pretty good for themselves. Most guys can't. And as a result, they don't last too long. And next thing you know, if you're able to stick around long enough, you'll do okay. Because if people still want to buy on a tool truck, their choices get pretty limited when the other guys go by the wayside.
Yeah. I want to touch back on something we had started to talk about, and it's so easy, man. Especially because you and I are friends. You know, we can. I have a way I think I want to ask these questions, and all of a sudden you say something that reminds me of something else. And I go way off topic,
right.
but I had mentioned it about the online tool companies, Tecton, Capri, OEM Tools. I've got some of all of them, but my question, I'll give you my opinion after you give me yours. You're the tool guy selling to pros every single day. Do you consider those professional tools?
To varying degrees. OEM Tools is a pro grade tool company. I do know some pros that use Tecton, but they're limited in what they use. I think mainly their sockets. Capri is, from what I know about Capri, and I'm not real knowledgeable with them, but I know a few things about them. And I would not put them in the same category, and I wouldn't recommend them to a professional user because their manufacturing processes, and when I say theirs, I mean the manufacturing processes used by the companies that make their tools for them, because I don't think Capri owns their own manufacturing capacity. And if they do, I'll stand corrected. But the way they make a lot of their tools is they laser cut them or cut them on CNC machines. And that's an inherently weaker way of making a steel tool. And you want to compare, say, a wrench to a wrench. Forging a wrench is inherently stronger than cutting a wrench because you keep the grains of the metal intact and you strengthen them by compressing them, and you don't have that same advantage when you cut them. So while Capri may be very good for certain types of guys who use them in certain applications, I wouldn't wholeheartedly endorse it to be kind of an across the board, yes, use it all day, every day in the shop kind of stuff. But again, it depends. I'm not going to say they're bad because I don't think they are. I think they absolutely have their place, as all tool brands do. But you just have to make sure that you're not using it beyond its intended capacities, because every tool has a limit. Some tools' limits are just farther along than others.
Now, I'll give you my take on those three brands. Tecton, I've got a half-inch drive master chrome set. It came with extensions, breaker bar, ratchet, deep and shallow. What I like about them is that there are no skips, and they got a lot of sockets in their sets. That's very cool. The half-inch set for me, even though I'm working on diesels, that's probably, I probably use 3/8 the most, then quarter, but they're pretty close. And half-inch is like what I use the very least. So it's hard for me to give a great opinion. I don't like the ratchet. I'm not a fan of the ratchet at all. It's heavy. It's bulky. It's got a lot of slop in it, or what do you call it? Not slop, but play, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tooth count is, but it's not. I don't like the ratchet. The sockets, when I've used them, like when I throw a 19 on the torque wrench to torque wheels down or something like that. But is that really testing those tools? I mean, you're just getting a click out of them. But like I said, I can't really speak on the sockets too much, but it's a nice set, nice complete set. I don't like the ratchet. Breaker bar is a little short, I think, for a half-inch breaker bar. I think a half-inch breaker bar should be about 24 inches.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This one, I think it's around 17, 18. It's not a real long breaker bar. So that's my take on Tecton. OEM Tools, I've got a lot of their stuff, but nothing would really be considered a hard. I got like bit sets and stuff like that, and I've been happy with it. Their bit ratchets are horrible. They're bit ratchet, the little small ones. Like I'm sure you probably sell a ton of them too. It's been around for years, but the Sunex little bit set that comes like a red case with the clear top.
Oh yeah, sell them all the time.
Yes, I've got that set, and that little ratchet, fantastic.
Yeah,
but the same ratchet or OEM's version of that ratchet, that thing's junk. It was skipping or I couldn't take a battery out of my niece's Edge because it wouldn't take.
Wow.
It was bad. And I think I did a video on Easy Red version of a little bit similar ratchet, a little bit longer, and you even commented on that video telling me that it's hard to make those right, but that the Vim Tools came out with one, and I should try that one. And I'm going to try that one. That's definitely the next one I'm going to buy. But the OEM Tools one is horrible, and the Easy Red one was horrible. I got a PowerStroke one from O'Reilly's or AutoZone or something, and that one was junk. But like I said, that Sunex one, I've had that thing since 2010, and that thing I use that all the time. That one they did a great job on theirs. Capri, they were almost Snap-on marketing when they first came out. With all their star points, or not star points, but you buy this and you get we'll give you if you buy this ratchet, we're going to give you a hat, or if you spend $600, we're going to give you a hat and a bottle opener, and they were giving you points back on tools so you could have. And I was like, oh, cool. I probably made 2 purchases. I don't know, maybe spent $2,000, a lot of money. I don't have any of the tools anymore. I either gave them away, sold them, or got rid of them.
Wow.
I wasn't a fan of the Capri stuff at all. The 3-piece ratchet set that's quarter, half, and 3/8, I gave to my godson, and he uses it all the time, and he says he loves it. I never really got a chance to use that much because right when I got that, he was starting to get into wrenching, and I said, "Oh, well, dude, take this set, man. It's better than anything you got, I promise." And he says he likes it, but the other than their hex bit set, which I did think was okay, but I still gave it away. I wasn't a fan of Capri Tools. Their people were nice. Their warranties were great. I got to know this girl Isabel from Warranty. We emailed each other all the time, and she was always helpful and always did a great job. But if I have to email her twice a week for a warranty, come on.
That's pretty excessive.
you know what I mean? Her and I were on a first name basis. That's how bad it got.
That's rough. And your point is an excellent one when you talk about tools that were made, you've had for 10 years and it's still great. What you find sometimes in this industry is over time you'll see the quality kind of fluctuate, like we're talking about Craftsman, because when you have a brand like Tecton, which has none of their own manufacturing, Tecton is a private label brand. So what they do is they have their own engineers that will design a tool and they'll say, hey, we want these tools to these specs. And they go to a manufacturer and say, can you make this for us? And the manufacturer says yes. And the company who's making it is called an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer. They're manufacturing the original equipment given to them by the brand, by Tecton. And Tecton is what's called an ODM, an original design manufacturer, where they design the tool, then they give it to an OEM to manufacture the tool, and they'll bid that out on the regular. So, maybe they come up with an agreement. We're going to give it to these guys to do for 5 years. After 5 years, they reshop their contract. Maybe they'll find someone to do it less expensive, but maybe the quality slips. Maybe they find that they were using an inferior alloy, or they didn't have a good forging process, or whatever it is. You can find that what was good 5 years ago maybe isn't so good today. And it's because of an inability for a brand to maintain really strict manufacturing controls over the company that's doing the manufacturing for them. And that's where you can slip up.
Well,
That's why a company like Snap-on is so good, because they maintain that stuff themselves, and they're very good at that. And they make sure that their quality is solid, from beginning to end. And a lot of companies don't have that luxury.
Well, if they're my guess, I mean, I'm not tech literate by any means, but I mean, my guess is that if they're switching manufacturers, someone might be making them a ratchet for $15, and another company says, well, I can make it for $5. Well, there's got to be a reason they can make it for $5. Like you said, like whatever the quality, there's got to be a reason that they can make it that much cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's just going to go on from the manufacturer to the company to the consumer.
Correct. Now, where it may very well work to advantage, to your point with Capri, they might say, man, we can drop our manufacturing cost per unit from $15 to $5. Yeah, let's do that. And if we bump the retail price up a little bit, we'll make an insane margin on this stuff. We can afford to replace these all day long and still come out ahead. They don't care how many breaks. So because their manufacturing cost is so cheap, that means you're on the phone twice a week. Hey, this broke again, or we got this other thing broke. And they'll say, okay, we'll replace it for you. And they don't care, because they know that not everybody is going to do what you do. Some guys are just going to say, whatever, forget it, I'm not going to bother. And fine, then they made all the money and they never have to back a warranty. But when they do, it's a risk that they take, knowing that there's going to be a certain percentage of warranty replacements done. But if their initial cost is cheap enough, they're fine with that.
Yes, but if they want to have a name they can stand behind, they shouldn't be fine with that.
Correct. And that goes to, business philosophy. What kind of company do you want to be? Do you want to be a company that people feel really, really good about? I love these guys because they stand for quality and they've always been around and they make great quality products and their people are good to deal with when I call. Or do you just want to say, let's just make whatever money we can for as long as we can, and then when that road ends, it ends. It really depends on what you're in it for. You're going to pay for that quality. That's just the way it is. And you're going to pay more as a result. There's nothing wrong with buying an inexpensive tool if you use it within its limitations and you never have a problem with it. But like we said earlier, those limitations are going to vary depending on, the brand and the cost and all the rest of it. And sometimes the only way to know is to try it yourself.
You know what a company like Capri should do? Now, nobody wants to do this because they think they're going to, everyone wants to be a pro tool. Everyone wants to replace, all these big brands that you sell. I want people to buy Capri instead of gearwrench. But how do you think it would work if a tool company like Capri came out and said, man, we're meant for the DIYer. If you're going to work on your cars on the weekends, if you're going to do a tune-up on your car, or, if your starter goes out and you're going to replace it, we are the tool company for you. That might be a good idea to think about. But no, everyone wants to be Snap-on. Everyone wants to be gearwrench.
We're pro grade, even if you're not a pro.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're not a pro, you probably don't need pro grade. And what pro grade means in my definition might be different from what somebody else's definition is. But for me, what pro grade means is you're going to pay all the money and you're going to get a ton of service after that. And you're going to get a tool that's high quality and it's going to last you a long time. And if it doesn't, it's made right away with no questions to you. And then you can feel good saying, man, I know I spent $200 on this where I could have spent $100 somewhere else, but boy, I am taken care of for the rest of my life with this tool. That's pro grade. And not every tool company can do that. And that's the difference. Is Snap-on pro grade? Absolutely. There's nothing that's not pro grade about Snap-on, with their hand tools at least. And, a company like Capri, are they pro grade? I wouldn't say they are, because they just don't have the same investment in their quality and in the longevity. And it's a brand that, I don't know how long they've been around. I don't know how much longer they will be around, but Snap-on's not going anywhere. You know that for a fact. These big tool company brands have been around a long time, will continue to be around, and that makes a big difference.
like I said, I was definitely on a first name basis with Isabel, and she was a sweetheart. So I actually hope she doesn't watch this because I don't want to hurt her feelings. Oh, back to that. We talked about Milwaukee being sold on Matco and Cornwall. How's that affected you?
It divides up that pie a little bit. But the good news is what we talked about earlier, there's fewer and fewer of those guys around.
That's true.
I mean, if we were all going to the same shop all the time, I'd feel the pinch, but we don't. I just sold 2 bigger ticket Milwaukee items off the truck yesterday, knowing that I don't have any competition in that area. So what I have noticed is the advantage that Cornwell and Matco have when it comes to, we'll use Milwaukee as the example. They're large distributors for Milwaukee, right? Those brands buy more Milwaukee than I do. So they have.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's not, no, we can't go by a truck basis because we're the retailers. But Cornwell and Matco are the distributors for their franchisees. So they buy a lot of stuff from Milwaukee and then warehouse it themselves. And then when the franchisees buy it, they send it out to them, right? So that's how that works. So they're big consumers.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so when you buy from Milwaukee, you're calling Milwaukee?
No, I'm calling a distributor.
Okay. Now, but you're calling maybe ISN or something like that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, Cornwell and Matco, they call Cornwell and Matco, and they've already got them in stock at their warehouses. Oh, yep. I see where. So Cornwell and they're buying a ton. Yeah.
Yes. So they have an advantage in that they'll take something. They'll take these deals that Milwaukee puts together. Milwaukee put together all these. They're always coming out with promotions for dealers, bundle deals like buy this, choose your freebie over here, and buy 2 of these and get battery and whatever it is, right? Those are things that are distributed to guys like me by email from my distributor because they come out so frequently they don't print them. And my flyer is a quarterly flyer, so I only get a new flyer every 3 months. But it's like 160 pages. Meanwhile, you have companies like Matco and Snap-on and Cornwell. We'll keep Snap-on out of this conversation. We're talking about Milwaukee. So Cornwell and Matco have monthly flyers, right? Because they're such a good distributor for Milwaukee, they'll get the heads up on what these deals are, and they'll print them in the flyer. So what I get a lot is people will tell me, oh, I bought this really cool Milwaukee deal from Matco, is in their flyer. And I'll look at the flyer. I'm like, yeah, that's the same exact deal that I've got, but I just don't have a way to publicize it in print, right? Because they beat me to that punch because they get the word ahead of time from Milwaukee. They can put it in their print cycles. They get it out in people's hands. I can do the same deals. And I try to let people know that if you want me to compete like that, just ask because I've got the same deals. I just don't have them in a flyer necessarily. So it hurts sometimes if people don't know that and they go and they grab the deal from another tool truck, but it doesn't happen so often that it kills me. And I enjoy having a lot of customers who carry balances all the time, who are continually making their payments, but they buy more stuff. And the way the tool truck business works is kind of funny. If I've got a guy, say, that owes me $600 and is paying $50 a week, and he buys another Milwaukee thing off of the Matco truck, I don't cry about that because I know he can't afford to pay me more than $50 a week. So if he already owes me $600 and wants to rack up another $400, he's still going to want to pay $50 a week. That hurts me. So I would rather he buy that somewhere else, stay paying down his balance, because now I'm not out that money that I have to wait 3 months to start making any kind of money on. You know what I mean?
Blows my mind how you guys do that. Everything that you have on your truck, you've paid for. Yep. And people are buying it like what would they say on the honeymooners? Buying it on time.
Yep.
That's crazy.
So there's so many things go into this business, including people's payment schedules and their reliability in paying on that schedule. And you have to factor all that stuff in, and it's kind of a complicated formula sometimes. So you try to whittle it down and just get to the kernel of how to make that formula work for you.
There have been times where I've carried a bigger balance and taken a little bit longer to pay, but for the most part, most of the time when you get in a truck, it'll say like, I want a 10-week turnaround, max,
Right.
to get reimbursed on what you buy. But I mean, shoot, I bought a $6,000 scan tool and it was paid off like in 4 months. So
yeah. With stuff like that, I make sure that guys will agree to a more aggressive payment schedule. But I'll give you an example. Like last night, a guy was looking at, I forget what it was. He was looking at something on the shelf. I've had this thing on the truck for like, I don't know, 8 months. I really wanted to sell it. I didn't care. And the guy said, how much is this? And it was like $150. He said, I don't have a lot of money. He says, and I know this guy and I know he's reliable. So I knew he was not trying to hand me a line, but he said, can I pay like $30 every 2 weeks on it?
Oh.
When you break that down to $15 a week, that's normally too low. But for this guy and this tool that I really want to unload, I'm like, yep, that's fine. And here's why it's okay, because number one, I long since paid for this tool. But number two, I'm not going to restock it. So it's not like I got to go buy another one right away.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't have the money to do that. So I was fine with, yes, take it. Any deal that we could have worked out, I would have said yes to on that particular one.
I actually love when I'm looking at a tool that I don't know, maybe it's been there for a while because I've seen it week after week after week. And I was starting to realize, man, this thing's been here for a while. I'm like, hey, what do you want for this? They said, dude, I'll give it to you at my price, man. I just want this thing off my truck.
Yeah. Those are always good deals. If you can find that, you're doing the tool guy a favor and he's helping you up by giving you a really good price. Jump on those. And some guys will ask specifically, hey, man, what do you got that's been around the truck a long time? They want one load. Because I could probably make them a cool deal,
I got a really cool, it was from Harry. I think it's called the Shake and Break. It's air hammer ratchet or socket ratchet. I don't know. It's got an air, you use it on an air hammer, then it's got a swivel on it, and it goes, I think, it's like 8 different sizes, but you hit it with the hammer, and it's like giving it it's a really cool tool. I don't live in the Rust Belt, but it'd been on his truck forever. And I was like, dude, I stare at this thing every week. And he's like, man, just give me what I paid for it. Am I right? Sold. How do you get along with other tow truck drivers? You guys, you have anyone that has issues, or do you have any cool stories or anecdotes or anything?
I make sure that if I have an opportunity to meet another tool guy, I do. I jump on their truck, give them my business card, shake their hand. And I always make sure that I end the conversation with, please let me know if I can help you out with anything. Same as I would with a customer, right? Because sometimes we do help each other out. Sometimes someone, like, I need to find a pair of Snap-on snap ring pliers for a customer that really likes the Snap-on ones. Nobody else has one like it. I said, well, if you want, I can order it off their website for you, but he's got to pay shipping, which is expensive. Or I can call Bill, who's a Snap-on guy that Cass and I both know. I say, hey, Bill, can you get me a pair of these pliers? I go, yep, great. So we help each other out. I've got a Mako guy who I don't see all the time. So he'll leave like broken gear wrench stuff at a shop. So we'll relay it. So I'll take the broken stuff and give the new stuff back to the shop, and they give it back to him. We do what we can to help each other out.
That's cool.
Because there's no reason not to. It's not like it's not like he's going to go out of business if I don't help him with his gear wrench warranties. It's not like I'm going to go out of business if I can't get a Snap-on snap ring pliers for this guy. So we all help each other out because there's no harm in doing it. And, it's nice to chit-chat with these guys, find out how business is going, to see, what trends do they see. And sometimes you'll get a cool inside scoop on the state of things. And you'll always learn something cool about these guys, especially if they've been in a while and they realize they don't have an axe to grind with you. They don't have a secret that they want to keep from you. So they're happy to tell you cool things about the state of whatever's going on. Like you'll always hear was getting some guys disgruntled, like a Mako buddy of mine bought this banging new truck. This thing was awesome. And I was like, oh my God, this is a fantastic. It cost him like $200,000. And he just had he had a little Isuzu cab over before that. But, he did a lot of business that little Isuzu cab over. And I was asked about the truck and all. He says, well, the reality is we were told we got to all be buying new trucks. Our trucks can't be more than a certain age, and Snap-on has to have, trucks that are no older than a certain age and have to be at least 20 foot or 22 foot or something like that. And, so you get this kind of interesting inside information from these guys, and it just helps keep it in perspective for me. And it continually shows me why I'm glad I'm an independent guy, because I don't have those kinds of restrictions. I can run around in whatever vehicle I want, and no one's going to fault me for it. I get in that conversation all the time. My truck is an 07 with like 250,000 miles on it, or 270,000 miles on it. So it's tired looking. I'm not going to lie about that by any stretch, but it works great and it's dirt cheap. And I paid $11,000 for it when I bought it just a few years ago. So I have long since made my money back on that truck. I'm going to keep that thing going as long as I possibly can. I'm not going to buy a truck. What's that?
So why wouldn't you, man?
Yeah, right. It's a no-brainer. While I would love to have a swanky looking truck, and believe me, when you step on board a brand new, never been used tool truck before, it's a thing of beauty. The new ones are gorgeous, and the lighting is fantastic, and their shells are beautiful, and their color schemes are great, and they look wonderful. But they're expensive, and to me, that sends the message to my customers that you just paid for this snazzy new truck. That's why my stuff's so expensive, and I don't want to send that message.
Yeah, we get that same thing as a mechanic. A customer walks back to the shop and they see a triple bank with a hutch and a couple of side cabinets, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm paying for that." Yep. I know what you mean exactly by that.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me, and I've even had my friend Blaine. You've heard me talk about him. I did a tool cart video on his, and he's got it's not the 40. I think it's maybe the 36 or 32 inch wide. It's this full drawer snap-on cart. But it's just, he's got every tool's in it. And in my comments, someone wrote, "Man, that's a modest mechanic right there. I would definitely take my vehicle to him. He's not going to try to put his kid through college on me."
Right. Yeah, you'll put your kids through college, but it's going to take a lot of customers to do that. You don't want to do it off of one guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we were just talking about, dealers. This is a question that you're going to laugh when I ask it, but do you think there's an arrogance that follows Snap-on dealers around? Or at least not all, but maybe more than half at least, because I do. I see Snap. I see him, and Roscoe's my boy, and he walks around with arrogance. It's and I'm gonna bring, when I do my interview with him, I'm gonna ask him, "Dude, why are you so arrogant?" Or I'll ask him some way or another. I'll ask him that question. But do you see that at all?
I do, and to your point, you do see it vary from guy to guy. Snap-on Bill that services Cass's shop is not one of those arrogant guys. But I can tell you that most of the guys I've met have been, and I understand why. First of all, they're king of the hill. So there's a certain swagger that goes along with being number one in the business. Number two, they being Snap-on, looks for particular personality types to become franchisees. And they want to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they want to exploit that in them and bring that out, because that's simply the image they want to have on the truck. They want, they want their guys to walk in with the attitude and the swagger, and that we're number one, and we're number one, and you're just going to buy from us because we're number one. And a lot of guys go, okay, because there is a very real stigma that goes along with that people do believe that Snap-on is the best in the business, bar none. It's strange, and they're very good, but all the conversation we've had before about how competitive it is, and it's not just the Snap-on branded stuff that's made by Snap-on. Now it's made by the same companies that make every other brand that you buy, yet there's still this kind of legend and this lore around Snap-on that has this allure that other brands don't have. So they're going to capitalize on that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I mean, they can walk in with the next greatest thing in the world. And, to our point before, if he's not around in 6 months or a year to help the guy out when it breaks, or if he just charges an arm and a leg for it and then never gives him adequate service in the past, what good is it? When I was still a Mac guy, there was a guy starting who was going to work for another franchisee, and that franchisee asked me if I could train this guy for a week. So I said, sure. So I had a week to talk with this guy who used to be a Snap-on franchisee, right? I'm like, I've got to talk to this guy. I'm going to beware of how this week is going to be brutal because I'm going to ask you all the questions. Through our conversation, I said, I think one of my first ones was, why did you move from Snap-on and want to do Mac sales? And he said, honestly, he says, I was tired of ripping people off for a living. Wow. He says they specifically look for and recruit certain personality types. He says, I didn't like that. I didn't like how I had to do business. And he says, I felt bad about it. He says, I had a hard time sleeping at night. And it's okay if you have that arrogance, as long as you have the dedication to you as a customer and to their desire to do business. If you have the arrogance along with ignorance or an inability to help you, then that's a terrible combination. And a lot of guys have that terrible combination, which I think one of the reasons why we're kind of devoid of Snap-on guys in this particular area right now.
Yeah, Roscoe, he'll take toolboxes on trade, and it's because Roscoe sells a ton of toolboxes.
Oh yeah, I bet.
and he'll take toolboxes on trade, but when he trades it in, it goes on his truck straight to his warehouse or his little storage unit, and then he'll sell it off of Instagram. He'll post it on Instagram. Well, why don't you keep it on the truck? And he's like, this is my Snap-on truck, man. I don't really want to. And he'll take tools on trade, but he'll just post them on Instagram because he doesn't even have a box of used tools or traded tools because they're not Snap-on. He doesn't want to, it messes up his truck. I said, dude, you got Lyle there. And then one day I was filming his truck, and one of my videos, it's after I got to know him and I was a good enough friend, where I'm filming on his truck, and I get to the back wall, and I don't know what the socket was, but it was a gear wrench socket, and I focused on it, and I went back, and I showed Roscoe, and I went back, and I focused on it, and I went back, and I was like, dude, come on, this is Snap-on. Yeah, like I said, but at the same time, he's not worst of both worlds, because Roscoe's a great dealer. He takes really good care of his customers. Yeah. But he just, it's all about Snap-on. I'll tell you, and he's not going to get mad. I'm going to share this tidbit. He mentioned it to me. He said he doesn't like losing business to people, and there are people who prefer Milwaukee power tools over Snap-on. Sure. A lot of people. So he said that one guy told him, "Dude, I want to buy from you. I don't want to buy from." I don't know who it would have been. I don't know. He was, because there's two different Matco guys in Redlands, and there's one corner. So I don't know who he didn't want to buy from. But maybe he just liked Roscoe and only wanted to buy from Roscoe. But Roscoe didn't sell Milwaukee tools, so Roscoe told me that he became a Milwaukee distributor, so he can order stuff from Milwaukee.
It's tough to compete like that if you can't get your hands on that same brand. If you can't beat him, you got to join him.
I've never seen anything on his truck yet, but he says that he's got the catalogs, and if someone wants something, he'll order it for them. So I'm like, well, that
you have to.
Yeah, you do.
They're the preeminent brand.
If you want to sell power, if you want to sell power tools everywhere you go, you were saying earlier. I feel bad, but you were saying earlier that it's hard to imagine not seeing a Milwaukee tool in someone's toolbox.
Yeah,
I don't own a Milwaukee tool. I had one of their utility knives. Yeah, but I gave that to my cousin too, just because I have a bunch of utility knives, and I told him to pick one, and he's like, "Oh, I like this one." I said, "All right, go to take it." He's like, "Oh no," he's like, "You don't have another Milwaukee." I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll get another one." So I just haven't replaced it yet, but I let him take it. But that was the only tool from Milwaukee that I had. But being that I like Snap-on power tools, that's just me. Usually, I'm in the very minority at whatever shop I'm at. I mean, for every Snap-on power tool that I have or cordless tool that I have, there's probably if I have the CT9080, which is the big half-inch gun,
Yeah.
I don't know what the number is for the Milwaukee, but there's probably 5 of them at the shop. It's just that's just how it's been. But I was funny because when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh man, I got to bring this up later somehow. But I don't mean it in a bad way. One thing I do want to get, only because you have sold me on how great it is. I want a hammer that I can stand up. So I might be. I can just look down. I can see, oh, there it is.
I think it's been a great move from Milwaukee to get into hand tools. They've always been a power tool manufacturer for years and years and years. And when they started to make the inroads into the automotive market, they did very well. As we talked about earlier, the changeover is very quick. But when they started coming out with hand tools, that's made a big difference because they're a very trusted brand now.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
They have the kind of loyalty that Snap-on has. People love Milwaukee. They're going to buy Milwaukee. That's all there is to it. And don't try to convince them otherwise. Especially because once they buy into a battery platform, it's expensive to change anyway. As long as Milwaukee stays on those same batteries and people don't have to change out tools and stuff or batteries, they'll be fine. And they're doing that. They haven't ever given an indication that was going to change. So people are very happy with that. And building and filling out your lineup with hand tools has just shown that they want to be a serious player for every square inch of your toolbox. And so far, it's working out pretty well. Every time I have an opportunity to introduce a new Milwaukee hand tool, I usually take that opportunity, and people are generally pretty happy with what it is. The hammers have been great sellers.
I've got a video. It's a short that I put on a Facebook channel that our page that I had that I took down. It actually got over almost 2 million views on that Facebook page. Right now, it's got like 200,000 on Instagram, on YouTube. It's got like 10,000, but it's the same video on all of them, and it's basically I'm saying here is your infamous Honda crank. What's it's not crankcase. I'm losing my train of thought. Dude, I'm getting too old, Lindsay. For the crank pulley bolt for the Honda is supposed to be super, super tight.
The crankshaft bolt.
And I did a video with trying to take it off with the Snap-on and with the Milwaukee, and they both failed. And then another Honda came in, and Blaine and I were like, "Oh, let's do it again." So this time start with the Snap-on. I'm like, "All right, cool." So I started again. And for some reason or another, it just zipped off. Bam. I even laughed. I'm like, oh, gee, we're not going to get the Milwaukee. So 2 completely different vehicles, but I used the first vehicle showing the Milwaukee not doing nothing. And then on the bottom, it's like on top of each other. On the bottom, it's a Snap-on zipping it off. I just said I probably between all the platforms got 2.5 million views. Let's just say I have 100,000 comments between the platforms. So if I have 100,000 comments, I probably have 300,000 likes. Mm-hmm. Triple the likes. 98% of the comments are people saying how full of crap I am, how crazy I am, how I'm lying. And, I mean, it's everything. It's just calling me out because they're saying there's no way Milwaukee smokes Snap-on. I've got both guns, and the Snap-on sucks. Snap-on cordless sucks. You're right. What you said. People are very passionate about Milwaukee power tools. And it's funny because I'm assuming since I got more likes than I got comments, the people that are, talking crap to me probably didn't hit the little heart. Right. But the people that like Snap-on probably just hit the heart and didn't say anything. It's like, oh, correct. Cool. So I just think it's hilarious. But it's true what you said.
Oh, you can strike a nerve real easy, and you just gotta be ready for what follows because you're gonna get it.
That is funny. And one of your video series that you do, you have a few videos on there. I know 2 for sure, is where you say, "What the f?" But Snap-on or Matco or whatever, fill in the blank for the tool company, and you'll go to their flyer and show what they're selling and how expensive it is. Man, I wish you should do at least one of those once every 3 months. Just like
I have to get better at those because it is extremely popular series that I put out. My single most popular video of all time is the one I did with the Snap-on selling that $900 bit socket set.
Oh yeah,
And
the hex. Yeah,
this is a great continuation of that conversation we're just having. If somebody, even if you don't explicitly put something down, if somebody feels like you're encroaching on their loyalty, they will jump to the defense of Snap-on or whoever, Milwaukee, and start telling you how wrong you are. It's just like this, like, how dare you say anything about my brand that doesn't fit my my preconceived notion of what they are, and when you do that, you got to be ready. You got to have some thick skin, because you're going to read all kinds of crazy comments about people who will tell you how wrong you are. And even though, it's right in front of everyone's face, it's very plain. And even though in that particular video, the Snap-on one, I never put Snap-on down. I didn't. I said, here's a marketing technique that I want you to be aware of. Here's what they use. And you can see this in other areas of your life, right? See the same marketing technique, because it's a tried and true technique. People have been doing it forever. Just be aware of it, so that you are not going about something without full understanding of what it is you're buying and why a company wants you to buy a particular product instead of another one. And I didn't put him down at all. And yet people were really butthurt over it, feeling that like I was like just trying to shred their loyalty to ribbons, when I wasn't. I thought it was an interesting topic, and it kind of blew up like that. But it is popular, and people will take both sides, because there are people who will say, yeah, you're right. And there's other guys say, no, man, you're wrong. And both sides are just as passionate as the other. And it's kind of fun to see how that pot gets stirred with something so innocuous as like, hey, this is a marketing technique Snap-on's using. Just want you to know.
That's it. That's it. That was so cool.
But I should do more of those, because those are very popular and they're kind of fun. It is entertaining to me to read the comments and see, when that bell rings, ding, ding, everyone goes to their corners, which corners they're going to, and what they all have to say. And you see the comments start flying, and it's kind of a good time.
Yeah, those are fun videos. I enjoyed those too. Like I said, I know you did one for Matco, and I know you did one for Snap-on. Those are cool videos.
Yeah, I got to do more of those.
We've been having like fun conversation, but on a more serious note, I probably should have asked this question earlier. How has the tool business changed? Since like 2020. Since the China flu or whatever, COVID.
Well, there was, between then and now, there was a couple of years of upheaval. I think the way it's shaken out now isn't so different from how it was before it began. But in between, it was a roller coaster. And I know some guys in the tool business that did not make it through that. They decided they're just going to hang it up. And it was franchise guys who were servicing areas where their shops were shut down, or they were so slow they weren't doing business anymore. And they don't have the option that I had, right? If they're servicing an area and a bunch of shops are no longer viable for them, what's their option? They don't have one.
Yeah, they don't have another option.
Nope. What I did was I told the automotive shops I was servicing, who were seeing a distinct downturn, I said, I hope you understand, but I got to head up the road and try business elsewhere. And they said, oh, we get it. I said, call me, though. I said, when things turn up, if you want me to come back. Sure enough, they did, actually. After the time went by, I'm now servicing the shops I was servicing before COVID, when I had to kind of try my luck elsewhere. But where I tried my luck elsewhere was fleet and diesel, because those industries never stop. Trucking never stops. And I started doing really well. I expanded to go up to UPS, FedEx, and some private truck and fleet service centers where business was very good. And that's what carried me through. That never changed. The only shop that had a restriction on their vendors was a waste management facility. They didn't want any vendors, even parts guys they didn't want on their property, which is kind of weird. So they just told me to cool my heels, and I did. And it took 7 months, but then they asked me to come back. So it was nice to be able to be really nimble during that time where if you had an extraordinary event like COVID happen, all I had to do was say, okay, how am I going to get through this? And what am I going to do differently today? That's going to carry me through, as opposed to other guys saying, I don't have an option. Like, there's nothing I can do. And a lot of guys gave up their business and went to do something else. I didn't have to do that, which is really nice. I like that. And it also gives you a chance to kind of specialize. Okay, now I'm really looking at fleet and diesel way heavier than I was. And those would be my primary shops now. And then I'll bring in automotive where I can. And then, you kind of build this hierarchy for yourself of, the kinds of shops that you put in your higher priority and the ones that you keep on your lower priority. Like paint and body and dealerships are low priority shops for me, whereas fleet diesel and third party and independently owned rather general automotive are my first two choices.
No, I get that too. Now it wasn't COVID, but back in 2008 when the economy tanked, I was working at a dealership, but the car side of the dealership, I mean, those guys were starving, but I was working at the truck center. So we had all the fleet accounts, and the people who were working on roads and freeways and construction and all that, that never ended. That they were just still coming in. So I get what you're saying, because it trucking always has to keep going. Diesels are always going to keep going. And being that I'm, very fortunate, I backed into being a diesel guy. When I came out of, it was a program. I went to it's now Universal Technical Institute. It used to be called Phoenix Institute of Technology. Well, they were competitors, but UTI bought out PIT. But I went to PIT, and then I took a program called FACT, FACT, which is Ford Accelerated Credential Training. So if you work at it, just say you're an apprentice at a dealership and you just start once a year, twice a year, maybe your boss sends you to the training center to get credentials so you can be certified in brakes, certified in engine, certified in AC electrical. What would probably take 10 or 15 years, I did in about 15 weeks.
Wow.
Now I'm not saying I was super efficient at all of it when I came out. I was able to pass the test and pass the hands-on. And I thought I wanted to work brake and front end. And first dealership that I applied at, they said, all right, we got a position, but it's in the truck center. And I remember I was like, oh, God, I don't want to be in the truck center working on diesels. Best thing that ever happened to me, Lindsay. Best thing, man. Best thing that ever happened to me. Well,
you have a really good perspective in that you've had a couple of different industries under your belt. I like my perspective where I get to see all these industries from standing just outside of them. And you get to talk to these guys about the decisions they're making, about what they see. And I can tell you what I see. And if I had to give a new guy advice who wanted to be a mechanic, I would say get into diesel and work for either a trash company or a transit company.
Yeah.
And you never have to go anywhere else if you don't want to. You probably will, because you're going to get sick and tired of working with those guys. But they can be rough companies to work for, because the management structure can be frustrating, and sometimes you don't have good parts guys who don't order stuff right, and sometimes they kind of bang on you, get stuff done at an accelerated pace that they really feel like they need to slow down and take their time. So it's not for everybody, but if you can hack it and you like it, there's good money there, and you will never want for work because you'll always be employed.
All right, now I got a couple of fun questions, man.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is your favorite tool that you own?
Personally, my favorite tool is this little 12-volt DeWalt 1/4-inch colleted hex driver.
Okay.
I love that little thing.
I've probably seen you using that when you're on your older videos when you used to assemble stuff.
Yes, I use that all the time. Yeah. I use it for all my air tool repair videos. That little guy, coupled with Sunex has one now I don't own because I already owned the Mac one from when I was a Mac guy, this master bit set. They have all these quarter drive quick connect bits. That bit set with that driver, you feel like you can do anything with. I love that thing. It's a great setup. But I'm always using the Torx bits with that little driver for working on air tools. I use it for stuff around the house all the time. If I were to make that decision today, I would have the Milwaukee M12 driver with the Sunex Master bit set. It's just because those are the brands I know now and deal with now. Back when I was a Mac guy, they were the brands I had. So those are the brands I dealt with. So I had Mac and DeWalt. Today I would have Sunex and Milwaukee.
Okay, cool. What was the last tool you bought at a brick and mortar?
I bought this set of micro drive Torx screwdrivers, and I use those for ratchet repairs because they have those for some dumb reason. Seems like every ratchet manufacturer that has a faceplate that's held in with screws uses Torx screws, and sometimes they're as small as like a T4, and sometimes they're larger like a T8. So I have this little set of Torx drivers that I use all the time. When I repair Snap-on ratchets, which I do quite a bit, they're perfect for that. The gear wrench ratchets use a snap ring, so I don't need a screwdriver for those. But I repair a lot of I repair a strange amount of Snap-on ratchets for guys.
That's cool. You when you repair the ratchets, do you have to order the repair kit, or you don't stock those for Snap-on?
I don't. I actually have. What I'll do is I'll kind of keep like the parts. Like let's say somebody has a broken selector switch.
Okay.
Right. I'll get the repair kit from Snap-on, and I'll replace all the guts with all the new stuff. But I'll keep the non-broken pieces.
Oh, okay.
That way, if somebody says, let's say somebody just breaks a square drive off the gear, no problem. I'll just pop another gear in and give it back to them. It makes it faster and easier. So you have some parts on hand. But if you need a kit from Snap-on, and anyone can do this, just call Snap-on corporate. Say, hey, I got this broken ratchet. And they'll say, no problem. Just give us a few days. Next thing you know, you get a repair kit in the mail, and they're pretty easy to rebuild.
Cool. We talked about this with Capri earlier. Now I'm going to talk about it with one of the brick and mortars. Is Harbor Freight a pro or are they a Joe?
They're both. It depends on what it is. I think they're a Joe for like things like paint sprayers and some of their air tools, little die grinders and stuff like that. But they are absolutely pro when it comes to tool carts and their Icon brand toolboxes. When people ask me about carts, I say, don't even talk to me about it. And I'll on my computer on the truck, harborfreight.com. I say, buy this 6-drawer tool cart for $600. It is the best possible deal you can ever get on a tool cart ever.
Man, and get a Insider Track Club and then buy it on one of the holiday weekends. You get that thing for $500.
Oh, that's nuts! Yeah, I mean they're terrific deals.
Yeah,
and I see a lot of those carts in shops. I don't know if my promoting them has had anything to do with it, but I'm glad to see them in shops because they're a fantastic value and they're high quality. They look great. Their paint schemes look beautiful, and man, you can't go wrong. You're silly to spend 3 or 4 times the amount.
If you covered the badge and the sticker and put it next to a Snap-on cart, you can't tell the difference.
You can't. In fact, the first time I saw one, I was walking past a guy who's banging a shop, and he hadn't come in for a shift yet, so all the stuff was all closed up and looked nice and neat. And I looked at his cart, and I noticed it was new because the paint was nice and shiny, and he took the badge off of it. So I thought it was a Snap-on cart. But then as I looked away, I turned back, I realized I saw the corner pieces, the plastic corner pieces, they said U.S. General on them. Yeah. And that's when I literally stopped in my tracks, backed up a couple of steps, and started looking this cart over. And when he came in, I asked him if he could unlock it and I could check it out. I'm looking at the drawers. I'm looking at how it's constructed. I'm like, man, you cannot tell the difference between this cart and Snap-on or Mac or any other brand. And I see so many in shops now. I've never seen anyone have a problem with them. Their quality is very high. Even the U.S. General branded carts that have the 4 and 5 drawers are still very good. But for $600, that's the best deal I can find on a cart anywhere. And I recommend that to everybody. And their Icon toolboxes are also very good. They hold up very well. I know a few guys in the diesel sector that use them. So they put a lot of heavier tools in them and they hold up. They don't sag. The casters are strong. I know one guy has to wheel his box across the shop floor twice a day, every day, because he has to park it over in the side of the shop to leave room in his bay for the next guy coming in. And if a set of casters can handle being wheeled across a concrete floor twice a day, every day, and he's had it now for, I think, 3 years, the thing shows no signs of wear at all. It's a great box. I could absolutely recommend the Icon boxes, and the U.S. General 6-drawer carts are the greatest ones, the greatest tools I think that Harbor Freight has. A lot of the other stuff, though, it's kind of flimsy. But here's another thing people don't know: if you watch Torque Test channel, he did this test between the Chief brand air hammer from Harbor Freight and the Mac brand air hammer. What he found was they are identical air hammers made by the same company. So,
Wow.
so
I know I've seen that Chief one. It looks exactly like the Mac.
Yeah. Yep. And in fact, if you look at the schematics for their parts, even the part numbers are the same. I mean, they're identical, and you're spending a fraction of the money at Harbor Freight for it.
Well, the Chief one's probably what, $130. The Mac one's probably $400.
Oh, I know, and it's a no-brainer. But you have to know that, otherwise, you're like, well, I don't know if these are any good. It's $100. How good could it be? Well, it might be great. It might be the same premium grade tool.
They might want to consider some of the other Chief products as well.
Yeah, I don't know where they all make them from, but sometimes you need somebody to give you that inside information, like Torque Test channel, and sometimes you simply have to try it yourself and see. Yeah. And if you're expecting a tool to go through all the cycles that a professional puts a tool through, there's going to be some trial and error if you don't buy the more reputable brands, especially from a place like a Tool Truck or Home Depot or Northern Tool, or one of those stores that sort of caters more to the professional.
Yeah. I've got the 5-drawer that I had for a long time. I did upgrade about a Snap-on cart, but the Harbor Freight 6 drawers weren't out yet, and if I had to do it over, I'd probably go the other route. And don't let anybody who watches this, if you guys have watched this far, you see people go to Harbor Freight and start shaking the drawers, and you see the drawers go like this. Man, I don't care what toolbox it is. I can go out to my Snap-on box. They all do that. Yes. If you shake it from the corner, that's not a viable test. I promise you guys. It's not.
No, once you extend the drawer all the way, it won't move like that.
Yeah.
But while the slides are extending, everybody's box is going to do that. And even if it did, it doesn't mean it's any weaker.
I showed a video of it, and just like you said, if they're not extended all the way, that shaking part is because it's not extended, and you're pulling from one side, and the slides just go. It's just a slide.
Yes.
Once they're extended, that's when you do it, and they don't shake like that.
Yeah. And even if they did, it doesn't mean it's any weaker. It's just a function of what it is.
All right, Lindsay. Here's my shoot. We're at almost 2 hours, but okay. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time.
No.
Tell me the top brands you sell on your truck, and if you could fill your truck with like what are the best sellers that you sell on your truck?
Milwaukee and Gearwrench are the top 2 best-selling tool brands I have. Everybody likes the hand tool offerings from Gearwrench. I'm a huge fan of them as a company. I love their quality, and their breadth of offerings are terrific, and they're expanding and growing all the time. But their bread and butter ratcheting box end combination wrench, their ratchets and their chrome sockets I would stack those up against any other brand. People may have preferences as to ones that they like more, but as far as quality goes, they're just as good as anyone else's. And some people really like the 120 XP ratchets because they like the smoothness of it. But even the new 90 tooth ones are awfully good. I see low breakage on those. Their pricing's very nice and very agreeable to most people. They don't have a problem at all paying the kind of prices that Gearwrench has. Milwaukee's fantastic. They are a little pricey now. The prices are creeping up. But when you compare the prices to the same kinds of tools on the Snap-on or Mako truck, you're saving a ton of money, even on my tool truck. You can buy them cheaper elsewhere too. But again, if you want the tool truck service and the financing options, then that's really your only choice to get it on a truck somewhere. So if I could only fill my truck with 2 brands, it would be those 2. I would absolutely fold Vim and Lyle into that mix if I could, because they make so many great specialty tools that you don't find with other brands. They really fill out all those little individual holes in someone's toolbox where they just need that one tool for that one job, or they need something that has a coolness factor to it, like Vim does, where they can find that form and that function along with having that kind of cool, nifty, swanky feel you get when you put a really high quality, nicely refined tool in your hands. Vim's got that covered.
Yeah, I kind of figured those would be the brands that you said. Those are all four of those are great tool brands.
Yeah.
Man, I think I got all my questions in, man. I appreciate you taking 2 hours out of your night to help me with this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, you're going to be the first in a series. I'm going to ask similar questions to different people, but hopefully not the exact same. But I am going to ask Roscoe why he's arrogant in some way, some fashion, some way or another.
I know his answer on that.
Yeah, some way or another, I'm going to get that question in. But I'm going to do some editing over these next couple of days, and hopefully this weekend this video will be out for everyone to see. Everyone who's stuck out, watched the whole video straight through, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sometimes Lindsay has like an hour and 10 minutes tool haul videos, and sometimes I'll watch that in segments. I'll watch 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And if you guys watch my video this way because it's so long, I appreciate that as well. But Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. I had a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to coming up on your next live stream that should be coming out pretty soon, shouldn't it?
Yeah, in a few weeks we'll do another one.
All right, yeah, those are fun. You cast tonight, man. We always have a blast.
That's a good time. Yeah,
we're man. Don't put us in a room together, man.
That'd be a dangerous combination.
But well, thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate everyone for watching. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of differing opinions out there for people who have experience in these areas with the tools and the tool brands that we're discussing, or your experience on a tool truck. Please put it in the comments, man. It'll be fun to read through what people have to say and what they think and what their experiences have been too. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun. And like you said, I can't wait to read comments. I haven't put it's been about 6 months. I put one video up a couple days ago, but it's been about 6 months since I really put anything up on YouTube. So I'm hoping I don't get like a punishment from them. I hope they push the video. I think they will. I hope they do. But even if it takes a little bit of time to build traction, I'm sure that this video is going to be popular. Just like all my my videos when I'm talking about tools or live streams that you've been on, those have always done well. So thanks again. I'm going to go ahead and say, everyone, thank you for watching all the way through. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and to ring that bell. Until next time, keep on keeping on. PowerStroke, Jude, and Coyle Tools out.